Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to completely unpack the extreme management style, the kind of terrifying risk tolerance, and the mind-bending philosophy behind the world's very first trillion-dollar empire. We aren't just looking at the sheer wealth of Elon Musk today. No, we're looking at the iceberg beneath it, specifically how his unique, hyper-granular decision-making and willingness to risk literally everything built powerhouses like SpaceX.
$1.11 trillion. Or, if you're looking at it in Indian currency, roughly 95 lakh crores. It's just a staggering, record-breaking milestone that officially makes him the world's first trillionaire. But, a trillion is, well, it's a really hard number for the human brain to even process, right? It's literally just a 1 with 12 zeros. So let's put this into a perspective that actually makes sense.
Think about it like this. The Tata Group recently bought the IPL title sponsorship rights for 5 years at a whopping 2,500 crores. With his current wealth, Musk could personally sponsor the IPL for the next 17,000 years, no joke. Or consider this one. If you decided to spend 1 crore every single day, it would take you 23,500 years to run out of his money. His net worth is literally greater than the entire GDP of Taiwan. He could buy Toyota, BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, and General Motors right now, and he'd still have $100 billion left over in pocket change. But how did this wealth accelerate so fast? Section 1. The SpaceX Phenomenon, Supercharging Wealth. So, a massive driver of this newfound trillionaire status is the recent SpaceX IPO. When this private company finally hit the public markets, it created an absolute historic moment. The valuation just exploded to an eye-watering $2.1 trillion. That made it the 6th largest publicly traded company in the U.S. market almost overnight. In just the first day of trading alone, roughly $84 billion worth of shares changed hands. But here's where the story gets really fascinating. We're looking at a massive paradox here. Despite raising $75 billion, their total accumulated losses sit at $41 billion. Last year alone, they faced an operating loss of over $4 billion. And even projecting into 2025, the rocket division expects around $4.1 billion in revenue, sure, but they will still operate at a massive loss. So, the obvious question is, why are investors pouring billions of dollars into a company that's bleeding cash? Well, traditional financial valuations just don't apply here. Investors are buying what Wall Street calls the Elon Premium. They aren't buying current profit margins, they are buying his execution capacity and his absolute conviction in taking humanity to Mars.
Section 2. Micromanagement, the Elon Premium.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this quote right here. In a 2007 interview, when asked if he would ever hire someone else to actually run SpaceX, Musk delivered a line that pretty much defines his entire decision-making process. "I haven't met anyone better than me to do the work." His whole strategy is rooted in the belief that delegating just slows down innovation. He trusts his own judgment above all others, and he flat-out refuses to surrender control over the things that matter most.
Back in the early days of SpaceX, you have to realize this wasn't a CEO just sitting in some nice corner office. He was acting as both the CEO and the chief rocket designer, simultaneously. On any given day, he would jump from high-level financial meetings with Morgan Stanley bankers straight into his car where he'd be on the phone actively troubleshooting the exact design of rocket fuel tanks, literally dictating baffle placements and Teflon clips while driving. And when the company had 370 employees, he personally interviewed every single one of them. He refuses to hand over the reins. He takes complete, utter ownership of both the highest-level strategy and the lowest-level execution. Just think about your own workplace for a second. Could a CEO successfully act as the lead engineer and the HR director at the same time? Probably not. But for Musk, it was the only way to maintain absolute control over every single decision.
And this micromanagement extends to literally everything he touches. His decision-making is immediate, it's visceral, he absolutely doesn't wait for committees or consensus. At Tesla, long before the power systems were even fully figured out, he was already dictating the shape of the headlights and the exact feel of the seat cushions. At the SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, he personally designed the interior layout. Right down to demanding that the office cubicles have Scotch Guard on them to prevent dirt. If someone says a task is impossible, he just kind of shrugs and says, "I can do it."
Section 3. The Mindset of Risk, Walking a Tightrope.
You would think a man with $1 trillion lives in some sprawling megapalace,
right? Well, in reality, his primary residence is a tiny 400-square-foot prefabricated box built by a startup called Boxable. It's located right near the SpaceX Starbase in Boca Chica, Texas, and it costs about $50,000. It's essentially a luxury shed where he sits at a wooden table making multi-billion-dollar phone calls.
To really drive home the absurdity of this ultra-frugal lifestyle, let's look at his mom. When Musk recently visited him, she tweeted that she actually had to sleep in the garage. There was no food in the fridge, and there was only one towel in the entire bathroom. The mother of the world's richest man sleeping in a garage. Why? Because his relationship with wealth is just completely unconventional.
The truth is, that trillion-dollar figure is almost entirely a mirage of paper wealth. Musk has stated himself that less than 0.1% of his net worth is actual liquid cash sitting in a bank account. The overwhelming majority of the whole shebang is tied up in company shares, specifically his 42% stake in SpaceX and his 12% stake in Tesla. Literally all of his cash is aggressively pushed right back into the growth of his companies.
And this brilliantly illustrates the difference between him and other billionaires. Take Mark Cuban, for example. When Cuban sold his company to Yahoo for billions back in 1999, he used what's called a collar strategy, buying puts and selling calls to protect his new wealth in case the market crashed. It was a brilliant, highly protected move. Musk does the exact opposite. He takes his shares and uses them as collateral for personal loans to fund his lifestyle and all his other ventures. This is extreme downside risk, folks. If the stock market were to crater, his massive wealth could just evaporate. He is constantly walking a financial tightrope without a safety net. While traditional financial advice tells us to, diversify and protect our assets, Musk's entire empire is built on betting absolutely everything on himself, every single time.
Section 4. Beyond Money, Post-Scarcity World. While the markets are heating up with his trillion-dollar valuation, Musk is actually operating on a totally different philosophical plane. He deeply believes in a future of massive deflation. He recently stated that as artificial intelligence and humanoid robots, like Tesla's Optimus bots, become highly capable, they're going to produce goods and services for virtually nothing. Like human labor will become entirely optional. The supply of goods will vastly outpace the supply of money.
This whole vision is heavily inspired by Ian M. Banks' Culture, sci-fi books, which depict this post-scarcity world where nobody lacks anything. Because of this, Musk doesn't just support universal basic income, he actually proposes universal high income. He predicts that in the future, money itself will actually lose its relevance entirely. It's a pretty profound irony when you think about it. The world's very first trillionaire is actively trying to engineer a future where his own massive fortune means absolutely nothing.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to ponder. If his ultimate goal with SpaceX, Tesla, and AI is to create a post-scarcity world where robots do all the work and goods are practically free, is Elon Musk's true mission to make his own trillion-dollar empire completely obsolete? It's a fascinating paradox to consider, right? Thank you so much for joining me today to unpack the mind of the world's first trillionaire. If this explainer brought you some value today, please hit that subscribe button, share this with your friends, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep learning.
I hope you enjoyed this deep dive. If you want to keep exploring history with us, make sure to subscribe to Ask the Timeline and turn on notifications. Every like helps this channel grow and keep